Here are the answers for the page 51 oral exercises, starting with question 1. We're given this inequality statement and asked what transformation is done in order to create this new equivalent inequality statement. Focus on the left side. We start with 12bx and it transforms into 3bx. What's happened? We divided by 4. And the same on the right. Negative 72b divided by 4 makes negative 18b. So the transformation is to divide both sides by 4. Number 3, start with the same inequality as number 1 and transform it into this new, different inequality. What's happened? 12bx times 2 makes 24bx. And on the right side, you also would times by 2 to change from this expression into this expression. So the transformation step is to multiply both sides by 2. Now page 51, the written exercises. Starting with number 1, we're asked to solve an inequality for x and then graph the solution on a number line. Inequalities are solved in the same way as equations, by transforming them until the variable is alone on the left side of the problem. Let's first subtract the 5. We get 2x is less than or equal to negative 2, because 3 subtract 5 is negative 2. Notice that the inequality symbol is the same as the one we started with. Now to get the x alone, we divide by its coefficient. So divide by 2. 2x divided by 2 makes 1x, and that's less than or equal to negative 1. Because negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. So the answer is x is less than or equal to negative 1. Let's show that on a graph. Locate negative 1 anywhere on there that you want, maybe right there. Then decide if it's a closed dot or open dot. It's a closed dot because of the equal to negative 1 part. Now shade to the left because that's where everything less than negative 1 is located. Number 3, let's solve for z. Get the z alone on the left side of this symbol. First, add 5. Negative 5 add 5 cancels away, leaving the negative 4z. And here's the greater than symbol. When you add 5 on the right side, you get 40. Now divide by the coefficient of negative 4. That's how you get the z alone. When you divide by a negative number, that arrow symbol switches directions. And over here on the right, 40 divided by negative 4 makes negative 10. So the answer is z is less than negative 10. Let's graph that. Here's negative 10, an open dot because there's no equals to on this symbol, and shade the numbers less than negative 10. Here they are. Number 5, solve for a. First, let's subtract the 3a so that there is no a term on the right of the problem. 2a subtract 3a makes negative 1a, or simply negative a. And here's plus 8, here's the less than or equal, and here's the negative 4. Now subtract the 8 from both sides. So we have our negative 1a is less than or equal to negative 12, because negative 4 subtract 8 makes negative 12. Finally, let's divide both sides by negative 1 to remove the coefficient in front of a. When you divide by a negative number, what happens to that arrow symbol? It switches directions. And over here on the right, we get positive 12. So the answer is a is greater than or equal to 12. To graph that, put 12, do a closed in dot, and shade to the right. Next, number 7, let's solve for m. There's different things you might choose to do first, but on the video, I'm going to subtract 2m from both sides. On the left side, we have 1m and negative 4m, which combine to negative 3m. Then when we subtract the 2m, we get negative 5m. Here's the plus 3, here's the greater than symbol, and here's the 23. By choosing to subtract 2m, what happens is the 2m on the right cancels away. Now let's subtract 3 from both sides. To get the negative 5m alone, here's the greater than, and on the right we now have 20. Finally, divide by the negative 5 to get the m alone. When you divide by a negative, switch the arrow. 20 divided by negative 5 is negative 4. To graph that, write negative 4, open circle, and shade the numbers less than negative 4. Question 9. There are some parentheses here with a number in front, so I'm going to do the distributive property as the first step. 5 times c, and then 5 times 3. 5 times c is 5c, and 5 times 3 is a positive 15. And then write down the rest of the question. Next step, how about we combine like terms to put the 15 and the 4 together as a single number? So that makes 5c plus 19 is less than c minus 1. Next, I noticed the variable c on both sides of the problem. We don't want that. We only want the letter c to be on the left of the problem. So let's subtract away this c here so that it cancels away. I'm going to subtract a c. 5c subtract 1c is 4c. And here's the plus 19 and the less than symbol and the minus 1. Next, let's subtract 19 from both sides. That will isolate the 4c term. And here's the less than symbol. Negative 1 subtract 19 is negative 20. And finally, divide by the 4. So we have c is less than negative 5. I did not switch the arrow symbol because I did not divide by a negative number. I divided by a regular 4. Okay, on the graph, here's negative 5, open circle, shade to the left. Next, number 11. Again, there are parentheses with a number being multiplied in front of the parentheses. The same over here. Let's do this distributive property as the first step. 5 times 12 and then 5 times negative 3t. That makes 60 minus 15t. On the right side, do the distributive property. 15 times t is 15t, and 15 times 4 is positive 60. The variable t is on the left and right of this inequality. We don't want that. So let's subtract away the 15t so that it cancels off of the right side. I'm going to subtract 15t. We have our 60. Negative 15t subtract 15t is negative 30t. On the right side, the number 60 is still there. Now we could subtract 60 from both sides. To get negative 30t is greater than 0. Finally, divide by the negative 30 to get the letter t alone. We divided by a negative. What happens to that arrow? It switches. 0 divided by negative 30 is still 0. So our answer is t is less than 0. Write 0, put an open dot, and shade to the left for all the numbers less than 0. Number 17. Notice the parentheses with the number in front being multiplied. That's when you do the distributive property. D times 2, and then d times the negative d. D times 2 is 2d. D times negative d is negative d to the second power. A d times another d is what creates an exponent of 2. Then we have our minus 8 and our less than symbol. Now over here, let's distribute this minus sign to all the terms inside the parentheses. it's kind of like thinking of this as a -1 times the stuff in the parentheses, and so you can distribute. So we get negative d to the second power, and then negative d, and then negative 5. Next step, let's start to remove the variable terms that are on the right side of the problem, beginning with this d to the second power term. The opposite thing of a negative d to the second power is to add d to the second power. On the left side, we'll still have our 2d. However, look what happens to the d to the second power term. Negative d to the second, add a d to the second, cancels away. Here's the -8. On the right side, negative d to the second, add d to the second, cancels away. So we still have the negative d and the -5. Now let's take care of this d term that's on the right side. We want this to cancel away. How do you do it? If it has a negative d, what's the transformation step that you do? You add a d. 2d add 1d is 3d. -8 less than, and over here on the right, the negative d add d cancels away. That's why we chose to add the d. And we still have the -5. Next step, add 8 to both sides. 3d is less than, and -5 add 8 is 3. Final step, divide by 3. So we get d is less than 1. To graph that, locate 1, open dot, shade to the left. For the review assignment, we're going back to page 47 where we were learning about equations instead of inequalities. For number 2, we're going to solve and check. So let's solve for y. First, add 1 to both sides. That's 4y equals 32. Then divide by the 4. So that's y equals 8. Now check if that's correct. Take the original equation, and where the letter y is, fill in 8. Is that equal to 31? Let's find out. 4 times 8 is 32, and 32 minus 1 is 31. This checks. Number 4, solve for n. Notice how there's more than one n term? So let's combine like terms. -2n plus 9n is 7n. And copy the rest of the equation. Now add the 343. So we have 7n equals 343. And then divide by the 7. So n equals 49. Let's check if that's correct. -2 parenthesis, fill in 49, and then plus 9 parentheses, fill in 49, and then minus 343. Is that equal to 0? Let's find out. -2 times 49 is -98. 9 times 49 is 441. Now let's combine these three numbers and see what we get. Because of the size of the numbers, a calculator might be helpful. When you type this in, you do get 0. This answer checks. Number 6, solve for y. Notice that there's a y term on both sides of the equation. We don't want that. We only want the y on the left side. So we have to do something that will cancel the negative y. What's the transformation that cancels a negative y? You add a y. 3y plus y is 4y. Next, subtract 82 from both sides. 58 subtract 82 makes -24. Then divide by 4. So y equals -6. Here's the check. 3 parenthesis, fill in -6, plus 82. Is that equal to 58 subtract and fill in -6? Let's work this out. 3 times -6 is -18. -18 plus 82 makes 64. On the right side, let's perform this subtraction. 58 subtract -6 is equivalent to 58 plus +6. And that is 64. So this answer checks. Now page 43, number 8. We don't have an equation to solve. Instead, we're given an expression and asked to simplify. You do that by combining like terms. Let's work our way from left to right. 2a subtract 7a. 2 subtract 7 is -5a. So -5a plus 5a. That makes nothing. There's no a in the answer. Now the constant terms. -3 plus a +6. That makes 3. Number 18. We have this polynomial and we want to subtract this polynomial. Let's look for like terms. The highest degree term is the m to the third power, here and here. So let's talk our way through this. -7 of them, subtract 10 of them. -7 subtract 10. That's -17 of the m to the third powers. Now look for m squared terms, here and over here. Let's talk our way through. We have 1 m squared, subtract -1 m squared. We're doing 1 subtract a -1. That makes 2. So in our answer, +2 m squared. Now look for the m's, here and here. -1m, subtract an m. We're doing -1 subtract a 1. That's -2. So in our answer, -2m. Finally, the constants. -3 subtract a 2. -3 subtract 2 is -5. So this polynomial is simplified form. Then number 22. This one has some parentheses with the numbers in front, where you do the distributive property. Here, and here, and here. 8 times 7j is 56j. 8 times 4m is a +32m. 5 times 2m is a +10m. 5 times -5j is a -25j. -6 times m is a -6m. -6 times j is a -6j. Now combine like terms. If you go with alphabetical order, you would do the letter J first, then the letter M, but it doesn't really matter. Let's look for all the J terms. 56J, subtract 25J, subtract 6J. 56, subtract 25, subtract 6. That makes 25, with the letter J by it. Do the same thing with the letter M terms. So this one, and this one, and this one. 32m plus 10m is 42m, and then subtract 6m. That makes 36m. For number 32, we're asked to solve for capital A in this equation if we're given values of the r's. So let's substitute those values. For capital R, fill in 9. For lowercase r, fill in 5. Let's simplify the right side of this problem. In the parentheses, 9 squared is 81, and 5 squared is 25, so 81 subtract 25. That makes a 56 inside the grouping symbols. We can leave our answer like this, but it's more common when you have the symbol pi and a number like 56 to write the number first and then put the pi symbol. So the answer for capital A is 56 times pi. Finally, number 36. Is the answer for the letter S 7? And here's the equation that we're going to check 7 into. So let's substitute 7 for the variable S and see if it works. Every place you see an S, fill in a 7. We are wondering, does that equal 10? Let's simplify up the left side and see what we get. Out at the beginning, 7 minus 3 is 4. Now let's figure out the numerator of the fraction. 5 times 7 is 35. 35 subtract 5 is 30 on the top of that fraction. Let's get the denominator of the fraction, 7 minus 2. That makes 5. This is equivalent to 40 plus 6, because 30 divided by 5 is 6. And notice 4 plus 6 is in fact 10. So we're able to answer this question, yes.